whatever brands which we see successful like QSR, they're all Western brands.
Yes.
McDonald's, Domino's, Subway.
Yes.
Wow Momos have been able to do, I think,
Yes.
because of different categories. But
Yes.
we never hear any other brands. What's the difficulty around it?
Well, there is one more brand which we don't talk about a lot, which is Haldiram.
Haldiram, of course.
Right? But obviously, it's different segment and a different brand altogether. But you're right, absolutely right. And that was one of the point in my investor pitching was, why isn't there an Indian QSR brand? Back in the day, because food delivery was very new, I would still go and order from my favorite restaurant.
Yeah.
Right. So, for example, if I like pav bhaji from Restaurant A, I would not search for pav bhaji. I'd search for that restaurant name and I'll order from that restaurant. The most successful cloud kitchen business, we left with anywhere between 5 to 10% at best as their margin. This is, you are running great business, amazing food, and have the best margins across. It's very tough to go beyond that 5 to 10%.
And how much Domino's make? Welcome to the Curious Club. At one point in life, everybody has thought to start their own cafe in a hill or whatsoever place, but don't know how the unit economics and everything works. So today we have got a guest who can help us navigate through different business models which exist in the food industry, from cloud kitchens to dining to cafes to even how Swiggy Zomato works. So our guest has built Uber Eats for South Asia and successfully exited to Zomato back in 2020. Then he started a cloud kitchen business which is called as Kychens, which is a very unique and innovative model existing in India. So please welcome our guest Bansi Kotecha on the show.
Hi.
Thrilled to have you on the show.
It's wonderful to be here, man.
So Bansi, let's start from your early journey. How was your early journey like, and how did you end up building Uber Eats in India?
Well, I'm born and brought up in Bombay, a Bombay boy. Did the same schooling like probably everybody does. Went to an engineering school, joined a software business, and then eventually went to the US for my master's. Then joined consulting. So I've been about 9-10 years at consulting. And the consulting was mostly in operations. And that's where I got the whole, key of kind of doing things from A to B or going from A to B in a much more efficient manner. 2014 or so, I joined Uber as one of their early team members in India. My first assignment was to kind of build their customer experience and support business for India and Southeast Asia. Eventually got a chance to launch and partner Uber with launching Uber Eats in India, scaling to 50 countries across the country, launching Sri Lanka and then Bangladesh, and then eventually we exited the business with Zomato. So I think that journey has been phenomenally fruitful. Learned a lot with Uber, like anybody could imagine. Like, it was one of the smartest bunch of people I kind of worked in my career. The amazing stuff that we've built, not just in India, but kind of globally. And I think that journey gave me a very great taste to what a startup could look like, or what a healthy funded startup would look like. Kind of got me peaked into starting something on my own. And then when we exited Uber Eats just around COVID, it was probably the right time to kind of hey, I'm in the right cusp of my career where I could actually start something on my own. And that's how Kychens was like the journey of Kychens started.
Good. So I want to understand how, because you set up Uber Eats, how India market is like in terms of food aggregation business. Just help us understand how unit economics and business models work in this.
So I think when all of us started, like the food aggregator business, like back in the day, there was Tiny Owl. And then Swiggy came in, then the Zomato started out their delivery business, Uber Eats joined in, then Food Panda came in. So I think the market got created. People were used to going out to restaurants and eating. They were used to calling their favorite restaurants and the restaurants delivering the food in their bicycle. I think that was the life we all have lived and kind of grown up in, right? So aggregators coming in kind of gave an impetus or acted as a catalyst to kind of create another market where people could sit at home and eat whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted. So like I like to call it, aggregators kind of build pipes that could connect restaurants to the customer's house, right? And were able to seamlessly provide kind of food at a click of a button. However, the reality is that in a market like India, our average order value or the food order value is relatively smaller. So the unit economics kind of gets stretched in the entire value chain, right? What the restaurant gets, what the aggregator gets, what the guy who's delivering gets, and what the customer actually kind of pays. So if you look at it from a margin perspective, there is the very thin margin business, because the customers are not willing to pay a lot more, obviously, right? The restaurants have a very, people, like you said, people want to open a cafe and a restaurant. That's everybody's dream. I want to open this, and one day I'll have my own restaurant. But it's a very, very tough business. I never knew this 5 years back. But if someone comes to me and says, I want to open a restaurant, I'm like, boss, think twice. It's not that easy. It's not that rosy. The only thing you get is free food at your own restaurant. Otherwise, there's nothing lot left, right? So the unit economics from a restaurant perspective also is very tight.
Correct.
And we all know aggregators are still struggling. So in the entire 4-player ecosystem, where there's a restaurant, an aggregator, a rider, and a customer, till now, I believe the customer gets the best deal. Gets the best food at home at the best prices with the best discounts and is enjoying the meal. But everybody else in the ecosystem is struggling. The rider is struggling, the aggregator are struggling, and the restaurants are struggling. So the unit economics is still not, I wouldn't say it's there yet. But if you go by what has happened in the Western countries, it'll get there. I think the balance has to happen where the customer pays a little bit more for the food that they get delivered at home. The rider gets their own fair share of money for their services. The aggregator starts breaking even, and even the restaurant makes money. But today, I don't think anybody gets any money except the customer taking the best deal on the table.
But what are the levers? Like if average order value increases, that can improve the overall unit economics?
So I was talking to someone who's very respected in the industry. And we had the same conversation, because everybody in India is worried about, hey, can I increase my average order value from 250, 400, 300 rupees to say 450 rupees or 450 to 850 rupees. And he said, Bansi, if you think about it, the kind of people that can actually pay that 450, 500, 650 rupees worth of meal 3 times a day, because you probably eat 3 times a day, right? You'll have breakfast, lunch, dinner, or you have lunch, dinner, snacks, or any 3 meals a day is very, very small in the country.
Correct.
So if you really want to get the business to scale and actually cover a larger population, your AOV needs to further shrink. So your AOV needs to be 200. You have to figure out a way that how can you run a low AOV profitable business. And the biggest player that's done that really well is Domino's.
Correct.
Even at a 200 rupees pizza, we still make profit on every single order. And I think the holy grail is, can brands build a product which caters to a much larger population and get it delivered at the right price, and the customer pays for that convenience. But that AOV game is not what the gentleman said. It's not what will build that business. The business that's going to be built is built on volume, because India is like a large population business.
But how will someone make money in a 200 AOV business? Because delivery cost is fixed.
Yes.
So you have to increase AOV, so only you can...
You reduce your cost of building that product.
Building the product.
How do you build
Highest
the
margins.
product at that low AOV, right? So that the customer still gets the... Because see, think about it, right? And an average individual will have 3 or 4 meals a day, no matter where you eat. You can eat at home, you eat in the office, or order in, or go out to the restaurant. Now, if I were to tell you, you work at a very fancy office, you have a great job, how much would you spend in a day on your food?
Right.
Total, hypothetically, what's the number?
1,000 rupees.
1,000
if I'm ordering out every day.
So 4 meals is 250 meals at office, right?
Correct.
How can you afford a 450 rupee meal even in, say, if you order lunch at say 500 rupees, 50% of your budget is gone.
Correct.
So then how does the economics work? So if I were as a brand or as a restaurant or as an aggregator, I want to make sure that all your 4 meals are coming from me. So I have to give you 4 meals in 1,000 rupees. And that's where I think everyone's missing the game. How do you create a meal at 250 rupees and still be profitable?
Oh, wow. That's very difficult, but yeah. Okay. Now, there are different models in food businesses.
Yes.
There are QSRs, there are dine-ins, that casual dine-ins, fine dines, cafes. Tell us about how the unit economics work in this overall, how unit economics works, what margins these businesses make.
So I think every business is a little different, right? Your cafes, your restaurants, your fine dining, your bars, and your delivery kitchens, right? For the longest time, and I have very little experience in cafe, restaurants and bars, like just whatever I've learned and spoken to people about, right? Those businesses are built on customer loyalty, right? Purely how many people walk in again and again, every other day, every other weekend, and can't spend that kind of money, have the kind of experience, and are willing to come again and again till a next door neighborhood kind of new place opens up and they start moving there, right? So hence this play of restaurants, cafes, bars has a very high mortality, because the moment a new thing opens up and I start building my loyalty there, this one kind of starts slipping, right? However, till that honeymoon period goes for a couple of years, there is a decent respectable margin that a cafe or a restaurant or a bar can make with all the dine-in business. But the moment they start doing delivery out of that outlet, that delivery component still starts losing money, because there's a very big commission component that the aggregator takes, rightfully so, for the services they provide. So if you're running a standalone cafe, restaurant, bar, dine-in, etc., unless your food is really, really bad and your service is really, really bad, you'll make money. Right? So if your food is great, your experience is great, people like coming to you, great vibe, there is very rare chance that you won't make money and you won't margins. But what happens is people feel that running a cafe, opening a restaurant is very easy. And then they miss a lot of these stuff on how do you get the great food, how do you build the great customer service, and that's when people start losing money and you see a lot of mortality in the business. Moving to a digital-only brand or a cloud kitchen, etc. This whole fad came out about 2 years, 3 years back, where you open a cloud kitchen without any investment, the rental is almost zero, you can open in a garage, and etc. etc. But people forgot that when you're not visible, you have to still build your brand on a digital world, which is very, very expensive. Cloud kitchen or a delivery only business is not new in India. It's not new globally as well, right? Domino's has been in the business for the longest time. And for me, they are the holy grail. They have built a massive business with one cuisine, right? Or one product. And doing really well, right? And they're still profitable and they're still running a great market and they're growing every single... I was reading somewhere that they're doubling their footprint in the country in the next few years. That's pretty phenomenal. Today they have about 1,400 or 1,500 stores, maybe 1,700 outlets. Doubling that in today's world tells you that there's demand. Right? But why don't we have anybody else like Domino's? It doesn't exist. So coming back to that unit economics question that you had, people have not figured out how does that unit economics work in the cloud kitchen business yet. You take any other business outside of Domino's, right? The next biggest cloud kitchen after Domino's is Rebel. There is Cure Foods, there is Box 8, there is Biryani by Kilo. Some really great brands, amazing entrepreneurs, and kind of building for a long time, right? And they're figuring out slowly, one brand here and there trying to make money, one outlet here and they're trying to make money. But I don't think anybody's cracked the code yet on how a digital-only cloud kitchen business works, makes money in that entire ecosystem. Now, what takes that money away, right? If you kind of put that perspective. Let's say food costs and everything else is the same. Your biggest cost driver is your customer acquisition cost and your aggregator or the delivery cost, right? Unless you figure these two out, your unit economics is going to struggle and continue to struggle till you kind of get there, right? And that's what all the big players in the ecosystem are trying to do. And they're also trying to scale. So how do you kind of get there is still a puzzle, which is unsolved. But I'm very confident that eventually this puzzle will be solved because people want to eat great food. There is latent demand. I think it's just slowly kind of getting there. We are better off than yesterday. And I think tomorrow we'll be better off than today.
But if talking about numbers, so if let's say 100 rupees revenue is there, in that, what would be typically the food cost would be and other
Let's take the numbers down. 100 rupees revenue,
Yeah.
Ballpark, you ask any restaurant or a food industry guy, they said, boss, 30%, 30 rupees is my food cost. That's a very basic number. Like, I don't think anybody's done the math around it, but they're like, what's 30% food cost? So let's say 30% is your food cost. 2, 3, 4, 5% is your packaging cost. Let's say your packaging is really good. It's like, environment friendly, or bagas and all of that. So 35% is gone. 35 rupees gone there. Aggregator commission ranges from 20 to 25%, depending upon how you negotiate. Right now, everybody is paying 25%. So additional 25 gone. So you are down to 40%. 100 में से तुम्हारा सिर्फ अभी 40 बचा. Now in 40, you have to figure out your marketing. You have to figure out your rentals, your manpower, your utilities, and any other ancillary cost, and then your margin.
Yeah.
The most successful cloud kitchen business will left with anywhere between 5 to 10% at best as their margin. This is, you are running great business, amazing food, and have the best margins across. It's very tough to go beyond that 5 to 10%.
And how much Domino's make?
It's a public company. I don't have the actual numbers, but
so Domino's make around 28%.
Because the food cost is 22%.
Yeah.
The deliveries relied on their own riders. And I don't think they pay
28% is before marketing. If you take marketing cost, it will be around 20-22%.
Exactly, but I don't think they pay 25% to the aggregators because they have their own. They have their own delivery. So I think they've figured out the end-to-end.
They figured long back.
Exactly, and I don't think anybody else. Name one brand which has figured this out yet. I don't think anybody's done that. Even Rebel, while they have been trying multiple ways and multiple models, I don't think they have cracked the code in every single outlet.
Correct.
Versus Domino's is profitable any outlet you open.
So why does this happen? Like, I always have this question, why, first of all, whatever brands which we see successful like QSRs, they're all Western brands.
Yes.
McDonald's, Domino's, Subway.
Yes.
Wow Momos have been able to do, I think, because of different category. But no, we never hear any other brands. What's the difficulty around it?
Well, there is one more brand which we don't talk about a lot, which is Haldiram.
Haldiram,
right? But obviously, it's different segment and a different brand altogether. But you're right, absolutely right. And that was one of the point in my start, my investor pitching was, why isn't there an Indian QSR brand? Like, why isn't there an Indian cloud kitchen brand that can scale? And that's a big gap. Why isn't it there? Because it's tough to scale. And I don't think we figured out the model that actually works from a unit economics perspective, which I just kind of mentioned. And I think that's what we are trying to build, saying, hey, if I'm building a brand and I'm scaling a brand, I'm doing 3-4 things. I'm building the brand, I'm building the product, I'm building the network infrastructure and the operations layer. And I'm also building the customer service layer, right? I'm doing all of that together. And it's very difficult when a brand or a single business tries to do all of that. It's a very, very long game. And it requires a lot of patience. Domino's is probably the only one who's been able to do that really, really successfully. So we say we will help one part of that value chain. We say we'll help brands do ops because we're good at ops. Like, that's one thing I understand. Like I said, I'll help brand do operations. Let the brand figure out their product. Let the brand figure out their marketing strategy. I can do their ops and I can give them scale, right? And then hopefully everything else kind of falls into place because aggregators have already built those pipes to kind of, you go in any city in the country, a Swiggy or a Zomato will be there. So that work is already done. The distribution has been built. You have to build the back end of that, right? The distribution के पहले आएगा, operation और assembly आएगा, वो मैं बोलता हूँ मैं करूँगा. Then there is the brand building and the product building, which the brand is expected to do. So the reason why we don't have a large chain is because it's tough to do all of it. The reason why we'll have much more large chains in the future, if we start breaking these large pie into smaller things, and one player starts doing that. And then you're going to build that entire ecosystem and you will see much more brands.
So now coming to your model, how it is different from other cloud kitchens? You're also cloud kitchen, but how is it different? Right? Just explain us that.
So like I said, right, we are a network of cloud kitchens. We predominantly take care of operations for any and every brand. We operate brand. We are a contract operator in a very crude term. Like if I kind of put a parlance together, back in the day, or even today, right? There are a lot of contract manufacturers who manufacture a Colgate toothpaste, or a Pepsodent toothpaste, or a Close-Up, etc., right? The same guy is doing this multiple brands. We do the same thing for a food brand. We assemble, distribute multiple food brands out of our cloud kitchen. We provide that operating layer that a brand needs to scale, right? So if you have a brand, let's say you have a Curious Pizza brand, you figured out the product,
correct?
You've backended the product in a way that it can be assembled.
Yeah.
You come to me and say, Bansi, this pizza brand exists. Can we scale? I said, yes. I've got 10 outlets in Bombay. Let's put the equipment together, which is not super expensive. The outlets already exist. The manpower will come that we bring in. You train us. And then tomorrow, 10 outlets are live on Swiggy. A customer in Andheri opens the app on Zomato or Swiggy.
Yeah.
You order from Curious Pizza. The order hits us. We assemble as per your SOP and boom, the order reaches the customer. Overnight, in about 2 to 3 weeks, you are live in 10 locations.
Got it.
Which if you were to do on your own,
That will take time.
the only difference is what we do is we run multiple brands out of that same location. So we get economy of scale and more efficiency. A large kitchen is serving multiple brands. You get a cheaper and a most cost-effective way to kind of scale, and the customer gets the best product at multiple locations.
Sure. And how do you ensure efficiency over there?
So efficiency comes, so we do 3 things, right? We substitute the real estate,
Yeah.
the infrastructure, and manpower, right? So if I have a same dark kitchen running multiple brands, there is rental efficiency, space efficiency, etc. Infrastructure, equipments, etc. are also cross-utilized, right? So the same fryer can fry French fries and also can fry a veg pakoda, right? And the same freezer can have racks where multiple products are stored. And efficiency on manpower. The guy who's making breakfast, like a South Indian breakfast, can also roll a wrap for lunch, right? So I think because it's an assembly brand, like our thesis is very simple. As long as it's A plus B plus C equal to D, I can do it. Like, so that's how we dumb down the process. That I'm not a trained chef. The process of creating a product is so dumbed down that even someone like me who doesn't understand culinary can put that product together. And if that happens, then anybody can do it, right? So a same guy can do multiple of those, and that's how we get efficiency on manpower. So any brand, if you were to run your own brand, you'd spend about 15% on manpower. If you were to work with me, I spend about 7.5%. That's how the efficiency kind of fixes it.
And how much, usually your margins are then from?
So we basically work on revenue share.
Okay.
Right. So what we do is we understand from a brand what the operations required, what is the skill required, how much space requirement, what equipments are required, etc. And we have kind of built a pricing model over the last 3 years, which kind of works for us and gives a great pricing for the brand and also for us. We've so much so done that we give a comparative brand P&L to the brand owners. You know what, if you were to do this on your own, you'd spend X. If you were to do with me, you'd put X by 2. And this is the margin of both structures. Right? And that kind of gives confidence to the brand owners. You know what, hey, I'm better off working with you guys than starting on my own.
Got it. Understood. So, Bansi, what are your plans for scaling Kychens? Now, how many locations you are present and what's the scaling plan?
So we are currently in 10 locations in Bombay. We're opening 1 kitchen a month right now. We're being conservative because obviously funding winter aside, but the idea is to kind of perfect the model. Any food business is a very long game. Like we talk about Domino's again and again, but Domino's have taken decades to come to this place, right? So I'm not in a hurry. And I'm trying to make sure my team is not in a hurry. So we are, and luckily we have investors, friends, family who are also not in a hurry. They're like, you know what, let's make this a structured business, a profitable business, a business that kind of scale steadily. And when we build that network, right, as long as that network has value, we will get enough and more brands to kind of work with us. So currently we're at 10 locations only in Bombay. By the end of the year, we'll be anywhere between 16 to 18 locations. And we want to experiment 2 smaller markets this year. So the plan is to do something else in Maharashtra, and then be one market in Gujarat, and kind of test that, because inherently, and again, this is data back in the day from Uber Eats and what you see currently in the market, tier 2 markets or tier 2 plus markets have a lot of latent demand, but not enough supply. So our hope is that if we go there and kind of build a large cloud kitchen with multiple brands, the supply gap can be bridged a little bit, and the demand can kind of catch up.
When you're opening any cloud kitchen, how do you figure out like how much space you need, in square feet wise, and how do you figure out that?
So obviously it has been a trial and error method, right? We've learned over last 2.5 years that what kind of works, at what square feet we'll hit profitability faster, etc. So back in the day, we started with 1,000 square feet, then went to 800, then got a 2,000 square feet. So we've experimented across the different square footage or the plate size. But right now, I think we are comfortable by saying, you know what, anything between 500 to an 800 square feet location can easily serve 7 to 10 brands. And that's what we are kind of playing with. Obviously, when you go outside of Bombay, the rental is so low that it probably makes sense to kind of take a larger
place.
But I think we're still trying to figure out and learn that model. But hope is once we learn that model in a tier 2 market as well, then the scaling will be much easier and faster.
What kind of brands right now you have?
So we try to cover brand from 2 perspectives. One is my kitchen should be efficiently run
all throughout day,
18 hours at least, if not 24, right? So that means we'll have brands that cover every single meal time, a breakfast, a lunch, a snack, a dinner, a late night. And we try to find cuisine gaps in a particular location. So if I'm going to a predominantly a veg predominant area, I'm not going to put a non-veg brand. Right? So I think we look at those 2 lenses and then find which kind of brands work. So currently we've got brands across the entire spectrum. We work with a brand called Thambi. We work with a brand called Marrakesh on the Lebanese side. We work with a brand called True Falafel. We work with Mimi's Ice Cream.
I've ordered from most of them.
We work with Brijwasi. So I think every kind of brand works with us. Because, you know, as long as the ethos makes sense, the brand wants to scale, and they can give a product which is A plus B plus C equal to A, we are the right partners.
Right, got it. Also, now coming to the fundraising part, you said you are being very conscious about how much to raise, and where to spend. I want to understand, how do you decide fundraising, about how to raise, what to raise, whom to raise from, and how much to raise? How are these questions answered in your mind?
Again, that's been a learning experience, right? Obviously, when I started, I went and spoke to practically every big and small VC. Again, that was the season. Everybody was about to put money. There were calls coming in. Also, my Uber kind of tagline helped. Because, you know, people know Uber Eats, and they've kind of heard of you from somewhere. The network was very good. So when I was raising money back in 2020, I've practically spoken to every single marquee VC in the country. Everybody. Even if they were not investing at a angel or a seed stage, I would have still spoken to everybody. I've spoken to most of the family offices, then the little bit smaller VCs and smaller funds. Spoken to everybody. Because I'm like, I didn't know better. But then I realized slowly that, where to go, talk to, what are the right people to speak to. Access was never an issue. I could speak to the right MD at the right VC. But I didn't know if this VC was right for me or not. So I spoke to everyone. Over time realized, kya right hai, kya wrong hai, who has the patient capital that we want and who doesn't. And slowly kind of nudged to we raised a very small round. We raised only $1 million, about less than $1 million, about 18 months back, with adequate capital and a very small, tight bunch of angels. And said, what, maybe that's the right place for us, considering we're not a tech company which is going to turn overnight, 3x, 4x multiple. So we said we'll start with a very small, tight bunch who believe in us, who believe in the ethos, who understands food or kind of respects the food ecosystem. Aniket has done phenomenally well in that space. They've kind of funded a lot of F&B based startups. So we got that tight niche and say, let's build that business model over time. Last 18 months, we've made a lot of mistakes. What I'm talking to you right now is what we do today, but we've done a lot of mistakes. We've done some crazy stuff. We've tried to cater to a lot of parties. We've tried to sitting in Bombay. We've tried to cater to villas in Lonavala. Some crazy stuff we've done because we like, sab kuch try karte, something will come out of it. Slowly, we are a place where we understand what we want to scale. Like I said, we want to scale brands which are QSR based, have an A plus B plus C equal to model, etc. And now we want to raise money from people who kind of understands this space and say, you know what, okay, a QSR brand is growth like this. These are the levers we can play with. Right? So any investor or a VC who can kind of give us that strategic help is what we want to raise with. Thankfully, our outlets are operationally profitable. So we're not in that dying situation that we want to raise money today. And thankfully, like I said, I don't want to open 50 outlets tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm going very systematically, very slowly, in the right manner. So not in a dire need of capital, just need the right partner who can help us scale.
And building business with patience.
Building a business with patience. I think that's the key. It's not that was double the revenue next month. It's not going to happen. It doesn't happen that way. So it's going to be a patient capital.
Got it. Okay. So now understanding food businesses, what are you seeing new trends coming up? How are consumption patterns for people changing in Bombay? Of course, you're in Bombay. So how is that changing? And do you think something can happen which doesn't feel true right now?
Yeah, so I think that's very interesting, right? So I'll go a little 5-6 years back. When Swiggy, Zomato, Uber Eats, Food Panda, all of us were very new.
Yeah.
The food trend or the ordering pattern was very different. Back in the day, because food delivery was very new, I would still go and order from my favorite restaurant.
Yeah.
Right. So, for example, if I like pav bhaji from Restaurant A, I would not search for pav bhaji. I'd search for that restaurant name and I'll order from that restaurant. Slowly, 2016, 17, 18, when the, like a lot of brands started coming up, aggregators started putting a lot of money, discounts flowing in, etc. When I want to have a pav bhaji, I started searching for pav bhaji and I became an experimental. I started as an eater. I would order from, okay, aaj pav bhaji yahan se kha lenge, kal wahan se kha lenge, etc. I became an experimental. Come COVID, things became very risky. I stopped trusting different new brands. So I went back to my old Restaurant Day and said, you know what, I'm going to search for Restaurant Day and order from the Restaurant Day. Post-COVID, now again that thing has come that people are moving into a place where they're experimenting. They're ordering, they're searching for the keywords. So if you ask the aggregators, today they'll say people are searching for the keywords rather than the restaurant. So that's changing. In between, a wave came for, a lot of people would say the way fashion went behind influencers, food will go influencer way. Like the biggest success story is Mr. Beast Burger. YouTube star launched a burger chain about some 200, 300 outlets in the US overnight. And a lot of people in India started doing that as well. A lot of celebrities started endorsing food brands, F&B brands. But I don't think that's picked up yet. So that's another kind of change. A lot of home chefs came into play and said, you know what, hey, we can become a cloud kitchen. Everybody started putting in their kitchen in the COVID time. They saw phenomenal business. And then post-COVID, things started kind of stabilizing and kind of almost dipping. So a lot of great chefs who built food brands out of their home were not able to scale to the next level that they wanted to. And then they went back to their old jobs or kind of do something else, right? So that's been another trend. Now the new trend is about automating cooking, right? How do you use robots to make food? How do you use automatic equipment to kind of do food, right? So that's also kind of coming into play. So there are a lot of nuances that are at play on the entire food ecosystem. And I think it will continue to kind of innovate. There is one side which sticks to really fancy restaurants, Michelin star, experiential food, molecular gastronomy, etc. And then there is the other side which says, you know what, great food, packed right, delivered well, and amazing to taste and affordable. So in between the two, there is enough experimentation going on. And like I said, India is an infinite demand market.
Correct.
This will sustain. But if I can't pinpoint, this is going to be the next big thing or that, there is obviously vegan and then everyone wants to eat healthy. So there are different elements that kind of catch up, but I don't think there is one that's going to kind of take over. Just one thing that I was talking to someone recently and kind of stuck, and I've been pondering over it for a while is, right? Right now we have a very large young population. But slowly, that young population also is moving because it become the very large, oldest population, right? Currently, all the food brands and all the food that we currently make is catered towards that young audience. That young audience is very finicky. not very loyal to that brand and always discount hungry, price hungry, right? But the loyal food customers are already moving to their loyalty based brands.
Correct.
Not many brands are being built for that segment yet, which is food conscious, healthy eating, kind of really wants to know what they're putting in their mouth. They're okay to pay that kind of money. They're not looking for deals, but not a lot of people are building brands in that space. And I believe that's going to be the next wave where if you build a brand that caters to that segment, it'll last much longer.
Yeah, got it. So my last question is, before we move to the lightning round, if someone is starting in this space, food space, because लोगों को दिखता है कि हाँ ये restaurant है, so you want to open. But what advice you would give to entrepreneurs building in this?
It's a very tough business, no matter what kind of segment you go, right? You want food, you want a restaurant, a cafe, a cloud kitchen. It's a very tough business. As long as you are in it for the right reasons, as long as you're in it for the long run, I think it's great. You should be passionate about what you're kind of building, what you're kind of doing. And I think as long as you're able to do that, I think it's a great place to be. But it's not an overnight success story.
Yeah.
Like any other business, it takes a while to kind of get to that stage. But what happens is what you see on that banner on a board is what do you think is an overnight success?
Yeah.
So I think my only advice is going to be as long as you're in it for the long run, it's a great place to be. But if you're not in it for the long run, if you just want to just try and experiment, you might as well take a franchise of an existing brand and learn and see what happens and then take it from there.
Got it. So we are moving to lightning round. So I'll ask question, whatever comes to your mind, you have to just say. So we'll start with your own cloud kitchen. Favorite brand from Kychens?
Mimi's,
the ice cream brand.
the ice cream brand.
Yeah. Who owns it?
There's a lady called Meha Agarwal. She's a home baker. She's been doing this. She was a home baker. Now she's kind of moved more commercially. She's been doing this for good 10 odd years.
Yeah.
And I think Mimi started in 2021.
Wow.
Very fascinating story. We did a podcast with her 2 days back. It'll come out. I'll share the video. But very fascinating story. Great.
Yeah. I've tried it.
Yeah.
One brand which you want to get on Kychens?
One brand which I want to get on Kychens.
You aspire to get the one.
I don't have a name of a brand, but I want a good pizza brand.
Category. Okay.
Category. Like I would say Domino's, but wo to nahi aayega. But a good pizza brand, I would love to get on Kychens.
Okay. Moving away, what are you binge watching these days?
What am I binge watching these days? I was watching Lincoln Lawyer.
I've heard from someone else.
Yeah, it's pretty nice.
One job you're terrible at?
Marketing.
Okay. And what about cooking?
I'm pretty good at cooking. So funny story. I used to cook. Cooking used to be my stress buster before I started Kychens. And since I've started Kychens, I don't enter my house kitchen anymore. Because I'm already in kitchen every day. Pun intended.
Yeah.
But I've stopped cooking since I started Kychens.
Okay. What keeps you up at night?
Just how to figure out and continue the business that I'm building and how to make and scale.
Every entrepreneur.
Yeah.
When do you feel the most productive?
Where? I mean, the location.
No. When do you, time-wise?
When do I feel the most productive? I think mostly in the night. I'm a night owl. Yeah.
Okay. What advice would you give to your younger self?
A startup early.
Start early. Okay.
Start early. I started Kychens when I was 37. I would have loved to start at 27.
Wow. Okay. Last question. What is success for you? That's a question goes to all the guests.
A peaceful sleep.
That's a simple way.
It's honestly, if I could get peaceful sleep, I'd say I'm successful.
Got it. Oh, okay. So this is it. Thank you, Bansi, for coming on the show and giving your insight. So we're having an insightful conversation with us. All the best for Kychens. Many more locations to go.
Thanks a lot, buddy.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming. Thank you very much.